It's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when we are living in a war zone. I feel like I can represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I lived or died. But now, I cannot die. I can't leave until this shit's straight. You know, I'm not suicidal. I can't go until y'all really know what time it is. And then after that, boom, it's all over. And we can see, how this fall. But that's how it is. And the reason being is because if I can't live free, if I can't live with the same respect as the next man, I don't want to be here. Because God has cursed me to see what life should be like.
I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture. I said this ain't our culture. I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture.
I still truly do not believe that y'all are listening to what the words is being said in that song. Let me close this real fast. All right, top of the top to you. Happy Macam Tuesday, man. We started the day running full steam ahead. All right, I'm gonna just say that right there. So we're gonna jump into this disclaimer real fast. You know what I mean? We're gonna go ahead and jump into this disclaimer. You tapped into the Make a Culture Move podcast with Top of the Top with King Phillip, where we're talking about the issues within the Black and Brown community that people that we do not speak on these issues to the point where these issues have become very deadly and destructive. All right. So with that, we did not need to go out to do a whole bunch of research that would make us the experts of talking about our community, our culture, our issues. We did not need to do that. Our experience alone makes us the experts. So I'm saying that to say, if I say anything, if any of my guests say anything that makes you feel some kind of way, please take the time to reevaluate what was said and do something internally. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like, oh, I can't wait to see that nigga Phillip. Oh, I can't wait. I got some words for him. Oh, I'm going to just look at you like, oh, not again, man. Why is y'all taking me? Why is y'all coming to me with y'all personal issues when y'all could just be dealing with this shit yourself? That's how I'm going to deal with you. You know what I mean? So yeah, deal with that shit, man. Don't come to me with no BS. You know what I mean? Because I've been getting a lot of people coming to me with some BS, and I'm like, why? Why? All right. If you have not done so, check out the website, makeachessmove.org. You know what I mean? Real sizzy. If you don't know, that thing is real sizzy. We worked very hard to get this website and everything going. But on the website, click the donation tab, scroll down to the bottom, and then there is a toolkit. In that toolkit, you can copy and paste some text. You can copy and paste a different image, and you can send it off to your folks on Instagram. You can send it all on your social medias. You can send it to your folks via text message, via email, however you want to do it. We want to backdoor them things. You know what I mean? All right, so go ahead and check out the website. Go ahead and check out facebook.com/Macam303. All right. Don't stop there. Go ahead and check out the Instagram /Macam303. Don't stop there. Go ahead and check out the Twitter /Macam303. Don't stop there. All right. Go ahead and check out the Pinterest, you know what I mean, /303. All right. So that's where we at with it. You know what I mean? Go ahead and check out all them joints. All right. Whew. Top of the top to y'all. So some of y'all are Facebook friends with me. All right. If y'all see my post, y'all know that I share my stance on gangbanging. I did a session earlier and before on gangbanging. You know what I mean? People didn't like what I had to say then either. But the thing is, I'm talking about it because this is an issue in our community. All right. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and bring I'm gonna bring one of our guests in right now. Just before we start this conversation off too. Just so y'all know, I had made a post on Facebook. I'm gonna give y'all the premise of this discussion. Last week, I had an OG who I used to look up to, You know what I mean? I used to hear stories and everything from back in the Gap, and shit like that. So to say that, so I had an OG hit me up in my inbox. He say, I hear you been talking about me. I hear you got something to say about me and all this other shit. And I'm like, what are you? But y'all know me. Like I said, I just let that thing live right in the inbox on scene. You know what I mean? I did not give him the acknowledgement, the attention, none of that shit that he was asking for. He got from me. All right. He the thing is, whatever he's hearing, whoever he's hearing it from, is incorrect. Like I said, I don't have time to address individuals. I don't have the energy to address individuals. All right, the shit addressing the individuals gets absolutely nothing accomplished. So what the fuck do I look like addressing one individual? All right, just put that out there. And number two, if y'all see my stance, y'all always heard me say I don't like gangbangers. You gangbanging niggas is weenies. If you still out there doing and destroying the community, you get a thumb down in my book. That is not gangster. You know what I mean? If you think just being fresh to death all day, every day, like that's you know what I mean? Like that's clown shit. All right, I'm gonna put it just like that. That's not cool. That's not gangster. So I made a post this morning. Oh, before that. So after he sent me the message, I made a video. Just basically saying what I just said. I don't address individuals, blah, so forth and so on. All right. So I made a video. So this morning, I mean, I'm still, if y'all was to just take a snippet of my inbox, like it's crazy. But I made a post this morning because y'all know it's March Madness. All right. And in Denver, a lot of the gangs, you know what I mean? They, especially the Crip gangs, their numbers reside in the 30s, from 30, 32, 33, 34, 30, so forth and so on. But it's 30s, trade-us, trade force, that's so forth and so on. All right. So on each day in March, on March, so today is March the 2nd, it's trade-us day. All right. All the trade-uses, all the other Crips on there, they're going to be sending shout outs to all the trade-uses and all the other stuff for all the hard-earned work, for all the work that they did in the community. You know what I mean? They get that day for all the work that they did in the community. Everybody sends the shout outs to the trade-uses. Tomorrow, I'm going to send my shout out to my mama and my aunt. You know what I mean? RIP to both of them. You know what I mean? Happy birthday, to my babies. But, Trade Day. You know what I mean? And on Wednesday, it's Trade 4 Day. So they gonna send out a shout out to the Trade 4 gangsters. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. What I have wrote on my post, all right, it's March Madness. All the gangsters, they gonna be sending they, you know what I mean? It's Trade-us Day. Shout out to Trade-us, happy Trade-us Day, all that stuff. Happy Trade Day, happy Trade this, Trade that. One of the issues in our community, mind you, we're not gonna forget why we're having this discussion. One of the issues in the Black and brown community is fatherlessness. Black men not being in the household. Black men not raising their kids to be men of honor, men of compassion, men of loyalty, men of principle, men of virtues. You know what I mean? Then we don't have that nowadays, and I contribute a lot of that to, the gang banging. Saying all that to say, that's not the only answer, but that's where we're at with it today, because a lot of these dudes, a lot of these niggas is not taking care of their kids, and I'm in trouble because I call them bums, which is true. All right, and when I say bum, I'm not saying nigga, just because you can go buy $500 sneakers, but you living in an apartment, you living in a rent, you ain't accruing no, you know what I mean? Where's your mortgage payments? You know what I mean? How are you accruing any kind of interest? You know, so I'm talking properties. I ain't talking, brand new outfits that make you look fresh to death. You go to a club and do your dance and stuff like that. Yeah, I ain't talking about none of that. I'm talking about what are you leaving in terms of generational wealth to your children when you leave, if you have children. All right. So we talking about that. So I called them bums on that aspect. And then I said, uh, they ain't taking care of their kids. Let me go ahead and tap in with our guest real fast. You know what I mean? Go ahead and get on up here. Top of the top to you, man.
Hey, top of the top. What's good with you, P?
Oh man, you know I ain't making no noise, y'all. Right?
Hey man, you know I'm good. Back to it another week, man. Straight up.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Y'all wanted to go ahead and tap in with you real fast. You know what I mean? So just listening to where we at with this conversation. You know what I mean? I had a few folks say they was gonna tap in with us. You know what I mean? Because I want to get their opinion as well. You know what I mean? Because I don't know from my perspective, but have you ever gangbanged?
No, I haven't.
Why not?
Man, you know what? To be honest with you, it definitely. I'm gonna say it definitely wasn't necessarily just because of my morals as a human being. You know, when in middle school, when cats really start getting deep, you know what I'm saying, into the gangs, I was sent outside of the community. So you know, I wasn't. Though I was raised in the community, you know, I wasn't necessarily ever pressured to be in a gang. You know what I mean? And I was never when guys in the neighborhood were really getting involved. You know, I wasn't necessarily just around for that. So, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I was taught not to gangbang. It's not something that I necessarily saw appealing, but I think the reason that I never saw it appealing is because I was separated. I was separated from it. You know what I mean? So I
I
never
mean,
gangbang.
but was there any kind of allure to you? Was you like, did you ever see anything like, oh man, that's tight right there. I wanna, man, I wonder what that's like right there. You know what I mean? Did that ever come across you?
Man, you know what, to be honest with you, uh, any little bit of allure that used to come across me, man, it was easily, you know what I'm saying? It was easy turned down. And I say that just because I've never been around gang bangers or gang members who are really just thriving. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it never looked good to me. I'm not gonna lie. You know,
Man,
I always looked at it as, you know, a lot of cats that were put in that position or, you know, raised in families that, you know, where gang banging was prevalent. Like that's usually ended like how they ended up. But it never looked good to me. I'm not gonna lie. I never really seen, you know, real rich gang members or people really making a lot of money. I never seen, you know, it wasn't a lifestyle that, you know, it was never really just appealing for me visually. And then I can honestly say, man, you know, just being around some of my friends, you know, when you're younger, you know, shit, even though I wasn't a gang member, you know, I'll say cuz, you know, all of that stuff, just being raised in the neighborhood. So, I mean, you know, I think some of the allure, if it was anything that would have caught me up, it would be, you know, the camaraderie, wanting to be like people in the neighborhood, wanting to fit in. But you know that I think my stronger thought kept me away, which was to keep me away from gang banging, just because it never really was appealing.
I mean, and you know, to that credit and to the gangsters' credit, you know, I ain't even gonna say the gangsters' credit. I'm gonna say to my cousin's credit. You know, he had cars galore. You know, different jewels. You know, clothes, all that, shoes, all brand new. I'm in the sixth grade in a size 12 because he's got brand new Jordans. You know what I mean? And he only wear them one time type of shit. So you know, I'm seeing how he's moving around, the respect that he's getting. That's what drew me to it. That's what, you know, that appeal. That's what made me want to get into it right there, and just seeing his moves, how he's making his money and stuff like that. That was my, you know what I mean? And it seemed like it got to a point where those individuals, because in the same sense, I had you know, even in the time growing up, going to school at that time, we had gangsters who was making sure that we would go to school. Like
For sure.
if you was young, you wasn't supposed to be out in those streets. Nowadays, it's not the same thing. These dudes is out here recruiting 9, 10-year-olds. And they shooting up schools and they bring pistols and getting caught up in it. Like, why is these little kids, you know what I mean? Like, just thinking back to, okay, what happened to
Bro, I
that
tell you,
point?
man, and then just even to chime in on what you're saying, if you would ask me what happened, a lot of those gangsters that would push the young cats to go to school and do positive things, they actually had some sort of positive role model, and they weren't necessarily raised in a gang banging environment. Like, all it when gang once again, you talking about the original gangsters, they parents weren't gang members. So they still got that tutelage. They still got, grandparents who sent them to church. But the second generation, the second, third, fourth generation of gangsters, they was raised by gangsters. They didn't have that, you know what I mean? They didn't have that influence in their life, or that positive influence in their life early. So I think that, when you're raised by gangsters, you're talking about gangsters who were raised by people who worked, who actually had standings in the community, as opposed to gangsters who was raised by gangsters. So I think now it's just gone so far, away from where we started, because we don't have any real basis, or for where we began.
Yeah, and even to that point too, looking at the ones who was making us go to school, you know what I mean? I'm seeing them as the first generation type of gangbangers. You know what I mean? To the point where their family, because we all that CRIP, the acronym for CRIP means Community Revolution in Progress. I don't know what blood means, because I'm not from Park Hill. I don't know what that, you know what I mean? I didn't even know that the Bloods had a day. You know what I mean? So I found out today that the Bloods got 10-4. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? So I didn't even know that. All right. But
And
I'm
I know
saying
that
that to
just because my cousin is a blood. So I mean,
yeah.
I know of that.
I mean, um, so I just lost my point, but I'm going off to another point too. So with the first generation, with everybody knowing that gang banging started on a positive note. You know what I mean? It was a break off from the Black Panthers. We wanted to do more for our people in our community. All right. But, so that was one route. I'm just trying to sit here and wonder, where did gang banging go wrong? And the thing is, we don't have that answer, because we're not tapped into that culture. And with me not being tapped in, I'm always asking, because they used to say snitches get stitches. You know what I mean? Snitches get ditches or whatever. Now I'm seeing snitches getting riches and snitches getting bitches. All right. And they ain't doing nothing to the snitches that was in their hood who told on their homies. They ain't doing nothing to these confidential informants that's still in the community, destroying our communities. You know what I mean? So what happened to the gang banging in that aspect? Where's that leadership that's supposed to do something about that right there? Because the whole gang banging scene nowadays is terrible. And the thing is, they when I say they, I'm talking about the gang members. They expect us to continue to accept this little bullshit, they little behaviors out here, how they moving and grooving and still destroying the community. And I'll even push it even further. I even go as far as, for those who used to gang bang, sell dope, used to shoot up, do all the other bullshit, get locked up. Now they back out. Now they want to do good, fix the problem, fix the community now that they doing good. And I'm like, we don't need you. I believe that does more damage than good as well. Just because of the fact these niggas still got them gang banging ties. If I was to go to a blood and be like, come on, cuz, that nigga gonna flip out. He versus me, somebody like myself, or I even said Elijah Huff. If I say, come on, dog, come on, blood, to Elijah Huff, he just gonna be, you know what I mean? Laugh it off. Like that shit's a joke. But you got these dudes who still connected, who still got these ties to that gang banging scene and don't want to leave that alone. but then they come in and want to do the work, and they bring those ties back to the community. It's like a coat to the bullshit. It's like they sugarcoating the turd. You know what I mean? It don't matter. You can paint the turd gold. It's still a piece of shit. You know what I mean?
But this is what I'll jump in there with you, P. You know what I mean? So the first thing that you got to understand is that this was all a setup, bro. You know what I mean? These organizations were actually molded to do detriment to our community because of the fact that, you know, the Black Panthers and groups like this started with so much positivity. You know what I mean? These groups were destroyed not just by anybody in the community. You talking about the government used to throw, you know, all and every resource at these groups, at poor Black groups who are just trying to uplift their community. And you know what I mean? And that is the most despicable thing that we always have to remember, is that all of this, we were kind of guided into this behavior. And I mean, that's why we have to, and once again, I don't ever try to, you know, absolve a man of his responsibility to his people in his community. But you cannot overlook the fact that we've been set up in these positions, and our organizations that could have been doing a lot of benefit have been turned against us. And it's not just up because of our own hand. There are a lot of diabolical, you know, situations and, you know what I mean, people that have had a hand in going ahead and making sure that we are, you know what I mean, separate instead of coming together and building our community. Bro, have you seen that new movie, Jesus and the Black Messiah?
Yeah,
I mean, Judas and the Black
Judas.
Messiah.
Yeah, I just peeped that.
Bro, if you just peeped that, you know, there was one part in that movie where, you know, the Black Panthers were trying to join up with the Crowns and they're trying to do something positive. And one of the Crown members brings out a pamphlet that was actually created by the government, by the FBI, that they used to drop this stuff in our communities to sow dissension between us. My point of it is, bro, that's the same thing that's happened with these Crips and these Bloods. I mean, as much as, once again, that we are responsible for our own downfall, and we have to accept that responsibility in order to rise, you can't just, you know, shit on our people, you know. And I'm not saying that you are, but even thinking about like gang members who are coming back and trying to do positive things, you're right, bro. They do have those ties. And sometimes that can be a complete negative for whatever situation they're trying to help. But one thing is, Black people, as Black people, that we have to make sure that we don't do is separate ourselves or, you know, look down on our brothers. You know what I'm saying? We have to realize, because white people don't do it, bro. White gangsters and white businessmen, they are hand in hand. You know, they run the government. But they point the finger at us and make everything that we do look bad, because that's the setup. That's what they want to point out to the media and to society, is that we are the problem. When as real as it gets, that's what I'm saying. Every culture, all people have gangsters, businessmen, people who do positive, people who do negative, but they don't separate it. They don't. They all work together. So I'm not saying that we can just accept anything. You know, some of those gangster ties have to be cut in order to go forward, but we can't, you know what I'm saying, separate ourselves from any of our people.
I agree with that 110%. And, you know, to that extent, you know what I mean? I want to make it clear, too, that my
bad, P.
Oh, nah, you good. I want to make it clear, too, that my direct focus and my direct angle is the gangsters specifically. All right? That behavior, that's a behavior. I'm not talking about y'all as people. I'm not talking about y'all as individuals. I'm talking about y'all as what y'all have accepted, you know, the community, what it is right now, because of the what's been perpetuated on us. You know what I mean? That I'm talking about, you know, even to the point of, you know, we have in our community, in our own community, all right, in our own community, you know, we in our own community, we have the type of hate. All right, I'm speaking specifically on the east side. All right, specifically on the east side, we have the kind of hate, the kind of destruction that if you are doing positive, going out to school to do your thing in school, you taking care of business, out there in school. All right. Every time there's a break or a vacation, you come back home, you have your homies. Some of your homies are family, some of your homies are not. They know that you are in college trying to do something better, but they're gonna drag you along in a car. And if they see somebody that they don't like or is the ops, they gonna shoot with you in the car, putting you and your whole school career, everything at stake because they see somebody from their, they see they ops, you know what I mean? And instead of thinking about you and being you in school, you ain't got nothing to do with whatever beef this is. They just still just come out and start airing out. But this person, I mean, again, that kind of suction, that kind of, instead of us coming together to lift, to get these youth and get these babies onto the next level. And what I'm talking about, the next level is more than just how we're moving. We have to start knowing better, thinking better, and then doing better. Because a lot of the times, trust me, we know better. Sometimes we'll think better. We'll probably think better, but we'll never do better. We'll never do better. And that's extremely thick with that gangbanging community. Real fast, you on mute. You might have to tap back out because I can't hear you. Yeah, you might have to tap back out and come back in. Yeah, so let me go ahead and tap in real fast. G, she said define gangster. And yeah, G, she said define gangster. Gangster, in my opinion, I mean, I don't have a definition for gangster, to be honest. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't have a definition for gangster. You know what I mean? I'm hearing that gangsters can be business, business gangsters and stuff like that. But anytime I hear the word gangster, it's a negative connotation that comes to my mind. You know what I mean? What was you gonna say, Jane? Nah, man, it still ain't coming through. Yeah, it still ain't coming through. Yeah. So, like I was saying, I don't have, you know what I mean, when it comes to a negative, I don't have a positive connotation when it comes to being a gangster and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And just so y'all know too, I don't, with that culture and stuff like that, and when it comes to y'all's rules and responsibilities and what y'all do in terms of violations and people being put on violations and stuff like that, yep, you back in now. Oh, my bad. When it comes to those to y'all's rules and stuff, who upholds y'all's rules? That's what I'm trying to see too, to that point. But before we come here, what was you gonna say, James?
Man, I was just tapping in with what you said about us not uplifting each other. The young brother coming home from school, jumping in the car with gangsters. They putting him in a bad position. Bro, man, it's crazy, bro. You don't think that we've been taught that mentality? It's that misery loves company, company mentality. It's almost like because so many of us suffer that when we do see positivity, we don't know how to react but negatively towards it. You know what I mean? I just don't think that that's our nature and necessarily something that is our fault as much as so much has been put on us. You know what I mean? That it's just habit, man. And once again, even talking to the young lady, even definition of gangster, if I was to define a gangster, it would be, somebody who lives outside the normal parameters of, the law. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who, can get or gets money or does or commits acts that are outside of what would be normal in the law. And that's what I would pretty much categorize a gangster as.
I see that more of a hustle. You know what I mean? I see that more of a hustle than a gangster. You know what I mean? And even to that point, how do we get to the point where we, even if we have somebody in our community that's doing good, how do we get to the point where we don't intentionally put them into shit? If we know that we on some bullshit, we just stay the fuck away from them. You know what I mean? How do we not drag them into some bullshit? And that's the thing too with this whole gangbanging shit, because it's a lot of just dragging everybody down, everybody just dragging everybody down. You know what I mean? And that's how I'm seeing it, to the point, even looking at that movie, when he tried to tap in with the crown. You know what I mean? And him letting them know, like, that ain't me. We didn't put that out there. Who the fuck says dig in? You know what I mean? Like, even coming to our own people. You know what I mean? So right now, you know, they don't, instead of seeing the truth behind gangsters and I'm gonna be general, gangsters not taking care of their kids, because there are more gangsters not than there are. All right. And there's more gangsters that are bums than there are that's not. And again, when I'm saying bums, I'm not talking, you know, they living on the streets. I'm talking about them being stuck, them wearing $500 shoes, but, you know, got a snap card. You know what I mean? Them got them red bottom shoes and shit like that, and $3,000 outfit on, but they won't be able to pay their rent or
But
their.
We've been taught that, bro. That's not just
That's the
obvious like
problem, though.
ignorance, huh?
I mean, and that's the problem. That's the issue. We haven't been talking about it. We've been taught it, but we haven't talked about how destructive that is, to the point where we don't even see it as a
I think
problem.
all of us know how destructive it is. I mean, you see that through everything that we've even been talking about, the crack era. So many brothers just locked up behind bars. We all see the destructive nature of it. The thing about it is how hard it is to change those habits. Once you've been raised that way, once you've been engulfed in the gangster lifestyle for decades of your life, it's hard to turn around. It's hard to change your mentality. And that's one thing that I'll constantly like put towards you. And you know what I'm saying? Because you know, you come hard, bro. And I respect it, because you know, your point is, bro, we need to do better. But at the same time, changing mentality and habit is the hardest thing that you have, or that we can go through. Like, changing your mindset has been set in a way, you know, in the way that you think for years. Mine has been the same way. And if you are raised in a culture that, you know, promotes gangbanging, then you're not just going to be able to turn that around in, you know, a couple years. Like, it took decades to build this. It's going to take decades to turn it around and make sure that ship goes in another way. But we can't just you can't just expect gangsters to change overnight. You know what I mean? It's going to take some serious time and collaboration from all of us. But I mean, if we just come at each other and, you know, negatively to the point of where, you know, fuck what they doing, I ain't going to deal with no gangsters, look what they did to the community, we can always do that. But it's not going to get us anywhere, because as real as it gets, we need all of us. And I'm talking about all black people in
I
order
mean,
to make a
and
change.
that's the thing, though. You know, some of us see it. Some of us see the picture. Some of us see that we need all of us.
But I've
And
been
then,
taught to see that picture. I've been taught to see that picture. And that's what I'm saying. Most of these young boys, they haven't. You know what I mean? I was listening to a young man the other day, and he was talking about how he came up on some work and he didn't know what to do with it. And his grandfather, who he was in business with selling drugs, told him, you know who knows what to do with that? Your grandmother. You know what I mean? And they went to the grandmother, you know what I mean, to even find out how to work with it, how to make money on what they had. Bro, you don't break them cycles. You don't break that chain over in a year. You don't have 3-4 generations of gangsters and then just, you know what I'm saying, expect this one generation who's been taught all of this gangster information to be able to change overnight. And that's what I'm saying. I've been taught this. It's been drilled into me how much we need each other. It's been drilled into these other young niggas how much they should be in the street and how important gang banging and gangster culture is. And with that understanding, if we understand how much we need black people, we have to understand where their mentality is in order to help them turn it around.
how? How do we go about, you know what I mean, getting that mentality, getting the understanding of where they are in their head in order to start trying to make that culture switch.
But you know what? I would say that the main thing that we have to do is quit preaching at them and quit, you know what I'm saying, trying to give the way you lead a man to some sort of mental breakthrough where he sees something different is, bro, you have to really put that information in front of him and you have to allow him to find those changes within himself. But you have to do that from a standpoint of, we are here. We're not going to ostracize y'all out the community because of the bad that you did. Now, we're not going to accept any of it to continue, but bro, it's through love, through understanding, and continued education. And as real as it gets, the hardest people to change are going to be the gangsters that are in 18 and up. In our, you know what I mean? Once you become a man, it's extremely hard. But I think we have to start with these children. You know what I mean? And the gangsters that are interested in changing because they went through all of the terrible situations.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me tap in real fast. James, he asks, what do you call a hustler who operates within the law?
I would just call him I would call him a hustler. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think all hustlers operate outside the law. That's why I wouldn't necessarily but I think all gangsters do operate outside the law. Now, going to your point, P, I would say that, you know what I mean, gangsters are a little bit different because I think gangsters come with, shooting, fighting, you know what I'm saying, a little bit more like war culture. You know what I mean? Hustlers is straight about money. But go ahead.
Nah, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just
but I would just say, like I said, a hustler that operates inside the law, I consider myself a hustler. You know what I'm saying? And I operate inside the law. So
to add on, I would call them real hustlers because you were able to operate inside the law. You know what I mean? Most hustlers, you know what I mean? They hustle with some negative that will get them locked up for it. All right. If you can find a product that you can serve within the realms of the law.
All right, so now I just got to tap in with that because, bro, this is my biggest thing that I even try to, once again, even talking about us coming together from the gangsters to the people who operate inside the law. Bro, white people in this, man, I'll say this over and over again. White people don't separate that, bro. They don't. They allow the negative and the positive to flow together in one. You know what I'm saying? You don't see these white boys out on the corner selling dope because they don't have to. But best believe that they are in these law offices and they are in some of these high-powered meetings doing just as much negative, serving just as much, you know what I'm saying, negativity or negative products or stuff outside the law as we are. It's just the fact that they control the law. So, I mean, bro, I'm big on that. Like, you know what I mean? When we talk about real hustlers, I'm not selling drugs, but I never would consider myself better than somebody who does. And I'm not going to say that everybody who sells drugs is just horrible with the community, huh?
Why not? I would say you were better than a drug dealer.
When you start talking
about, look at it. Just because of the fact you have a product, you came up with a business idea, and now you are serving the community with your product. That's something that they couldn't do. So I think you are better than them. You did not destroy, you did not serve somebody's grandma, somebody's aunt just for the next buck. You did not do that. So
let me ask you, now you think, and this is jumping into it. So like throw in like the Kennedys once again. And we talk about Joseph Kennedy, you know what I'm saying? JFK's daddy. But one of the biggest bootleggers was basically one of the biggest drug dealers back in his day. You know what I'm saying? But he put his family in position to get to the highest station in this nation. His son was the president of the United States. That's what all I'm saying, bro, is like sometimes I think as black people, we get too caught up in separating good and bad. And I really don't look at life like that. I don't look at it as good and bad. I honestly, Pete, I don't consider myself good and gangbangers bad. I just think that it's another side of the coin. And I think that right now, white people play that other side of the coin a little bit more business savvy than us, whereas our gangsters are out in the street. Our gangsters are obvious. You can see them. And you can't necessarily walk by a white man and say, this is a gangster. But that's all I'm saying, bro. I just don't consider myself better or worse.
I mean, I mean, yeah, I don't either. You know what I mean? But I will call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? If a nigga shot my daughter's boyfriend, that nigga, he's terrible. He's a bitch. He's a pussy. All right, he don't need to. He don't deserve to get out of prison. He needs to get murked in prison. That's how I feel.
But you don't feel at all with you saying that, and I know how intelligent you are. With you saying that, you can't see that young man and possibly his history and being groomed towards that. Now, I'm not saying once again he's responsible for taking that life, but bro, there's history behind that we have to get to, and that's where you're talking about the change. We're talking about the situation that's already, like, you know what I mean, the cause, the effect. But we're not talking about the cause that drove that young man to become somebody who you hate and abhor. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, so the cause is this gang banging environment where these niggas cannot accept the fact that they get beat up. You know what I mean? They can't get hands put on them, so they come back and want to shoot. That's that gang banging ass culture. That's that bullshit that these niggas teach. Like, take your ass whooping. Go back if you think it was unfair. Go back and get another one. If you catch 3 of them, then nigga, that's it. Don't go back for no more. You just took that L. That's that culture where these niggas nowadays, they can't take that ass whooping. They come back with these guns and you know, me personally, again, East Side baby to the core, played in the streets when it rained. The little puddles on the side of the on the curbs and shit, those were our swimming pools. East Side baby. I did not have access to guns like these babies do now. I did not know who to ask to get a gun. I was in a situation when I was 12 years old where a grown man grabbed me by my shirt. I was on my skates. A grown man grabbed me by my shirt. He was in his car and drove down the alley and was punching me because he was drunk. I did not know how to get access to a gun. Nowadays, these kids is getting caught in schools with pistols. These kids is shooting the little friends in schools with pistols. Like, my thing is, how much of this shit is we gonna accept? How much of this we gonna be like, oh, that's okay. Maybe next time he won't do it. Let's give him all the support that he needs so he don't do it next time. How much of this, like, that's a repetitive cycle. That's what I'm saying. Like, when are we gonna come down on that kind of behavior?
Pete, there was cats carrying guns when you was in school, like at Manual, you know what I mean? There was cats. I had a cousin that went to Manual in the early 90s, late 80s actually. He used to have to carry a pistol because of his affiliation. My point of it is, bro, is once again, we're not absolving any of this behavior. We know that it's bad, but everybody that is teaching has been taught. So, like, you say these cats now as if they are the problem, when it's way deeper than that. It goes back to whoever taught them. It goes back to the gangsters that taught them. These gangsters who got guns and stopped fighting, it's not like they just changed overnight. Somebody put them guns in their hands, and it was most likely them older dudes who was banging, but then, you know, got to the point where it was like, you know what, we don't want to do this no more. We should start shooting. Like, it's not just the kids. They did not change overnight. This is nothing new, is my point. Like, bro, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially me and you, shit, I've been out of high school for 20 years, and cats was carrying guns and shooting up schools back then. This has been going on for decades. It ain't just now. You know what I'm saying? And that's why coming at it with an approach like we're just got to attack what's going on now is never going to hurt, never going to help, or we're never going to get there, because it started way longer, you know, a long time ago. We talking about 30, 40, 50 years ago that this stuff was starting. So, I mean, to just jump at these kids and say it's the gangsters now, bro, it's been the gangsters over history that have brought us here.
Yeah, check it out. I agree. You know, what was the first time you heard of a school shooting? What was the first school shooting you heard of?
The first, I think obviously the first one that really comes to mind is Columbine, but I want to say even before that, I want to say like 95, 96, I might have heard of a school shooting.
Okay. I never, you know, to that point, I never heard of anything until Columbine, and we was in high school, I believe. You know what I mean?
That was like 98.
Yeah. And to that point, you know, my son, he's hearing about school shootings earlier and earlier and younger and younger with these babies. And the thing is too, with even these school shootings, all right, this is all new. Like we saw even in Manual, when I was at Manual, I'm not gonna say that there wasn't pistols at Manual. I'm gonna just say that I didn't see anybody like, oh, look at this that I got in my bag right here. You know what I mean? Type of shit. And I'm getting to the point. I'm getting to the point that just looking at the game banging scene in a progressive stage. You know what I mean? Where it has progressed to the point where the kids at Manual, we weren't caught with pistols. They weren't. I didn't see too many folks. I can't remember anybody getting caught with pistol. I remember somebody coming up there shooting it up. You know what I mean? And that was because my brother started that shit. That's dumb as shit. I remember that one. All right. But there wasn't too many people getting caught with pistols in the schools.
Now, I think I'm not gonna let you say that because I've heard about cats with pistols in Manual around the time that we was in school, and I think
you heard.
I'm not gonna say that it's not happening more now, but P, the biggest thing is, and this is once again, like, yes, we can talk about these kids and we can talk about these gangsters, but we are not bringing the dope into the community. We don't have access to these guns. I'll never forget listening to a brother talk about how in LA, the government, they used to set shit up to drop off guns in like abandoned trains and stuff, and you could just find this stuff in the community. Bro, this was a setup. If the government wanted to
still, if we know it's a setup, we know all this to this day. You know what I mean? How, like, where's that question at? This is my favorite question. When do we stop using that as an excuse for whatever? If we know that the drugs was there as a bait, you know what I mean? To, like, right now, we can't say we don't know anymore. We can't say we don't know. Now we know.
But they already destroyed our communities. That's the thing about it. Like, it'd be different if our communities were intact. And we do know. But we're talking about, we know after everything has been taken away from us. So it's a little bit harder. It'd be different if we knew and we still had resources, but we don't. We know now, but still now, most Black fathers aren't in the home. Still now, we got these kids raising themselves. That's why we can't change. How do you change when you never have that hierarchy or that leadership around you? These kids are still learning. We're still in the midst of this battle because most of these kids, their fathers have been taken, their livelihoods have been taken, their mothers have been, put down.
Why?
Huh?
I'm just asking why. And I'm
because of that setup that I'm talking about specifically, because of crack. We have not healed yet. You know what I'm saying? It's like having a cancer patient. You know what I'm saying? Let's just, and hypothetically, let's say that somebody heals cancer, but you've had it and your body has been dwindled down to damn near nothing. You know what it's going to take to bring that back? Even though if you know the steps you need to make to get back whole, bro, it's going to take an immense amount of time and immense amount of, effort to get back. And that's what we're in the midst of. Like, you can't, we just went through crack. The crack real era probably ended early 2000s. People still smoking crack now, but we talking about what we knew as the crack era. Bro, that was less than 15, 20 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? But we went through it for the early 80s to the late 90s. You know what I'm saying? We went through it for 20 years, 30 years. And then, we can't expect that to change overnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. Let me tap in real fast. We got a few. Crystal, she said, when did gangbanging start in elementary schools? That's what's going on now.
Gangbanging been in elementary schools. It ain't just now. Y'all don't remember watching Boys in the Hood in the very beginning when Trey and them was beefing with the other little kids in elementary? Bro, this shit may have be a little bit more prevalent now in Colorado, but this has been happening. This ain't new. If y'all think gangbanging in elementary school is new, then you need to go back and do your research and figure out what's been going on. These kids There was 11-year-old kids in the early 90s, in the late 80s, killing people, you know what I'm saying, over drugs and everything else. It's not new. But that's why I'm so adamant about pressuring this, because everybody's like, oh, these kids are different. Oh, this is new. No, it ain't. It's been happening. And do your research if you think that it's new, because you'll find out that no, it's not.
I mean, I would say you know, I'm pushing back on that. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact we didn't see kids throwing up gang signs and stuff like that back in the Gap. You know what I mean? I was throwing up little Crip signs. Yes, I was when I was younger. But what I'm saying, like the younger kids back in our day in elementary grew up to start these gangs. They grew up to be the OGs of some of these gangs that had started. You know what I mean? For example, East Side Riders. You know what I mean? All them went to school. We was playing soccer in the fields at Carson Elementary. You know what I mean? So all that gangbanging shit, it was more just cliquish. It was more just bully type shit there. You know what I mean? I didn't really see any, oh, this is East Side Trey gangster, you know what I mean? Because these kids nowadays is putting the hoods out there, even if they ain't quoted, and they could be.
But these kids nowadays was raised by gangsters. Our parents were not gang members. That's exactly the point that I'm trying to break, because I know exactly what you're talking about, the East Side Riders. You know what I'm saying? I was around when they started East Side Riders, and I know they was all a group of friends, but none of the East Side Riders' parents were, you know what I'm saying, and grandparents were gangbangers. But guess what? Their kids, their mothers and fathers were. So of course these kids are going to be a little bit worse. They was raised by gangsters. We weren't raised by gangsters. We was raised by country people. We was raised by people that was smooth, but they weren't just gangsters. And these kids these days were raised by us, and our generation was gangsters. So you can't come at the kids like, oh man, they're a new breed. No, they're not. They are what they was raised to be.
I agree. Tapped in. G, she said, be diligent and intentional about reteaching what we realize needs to be relearned. Unlearned, I mean. Let me see. Nisha, she said Columbine. Everybody said Columbine. We were at Manual in our Avid class when they locked us in. Yep. So what is the excuse? So what is the excuse for these parents that are trying to be their kids' friends?
Man, once again, man, I'll come back to all of this shit. And it's usually how you taught and what you know. I'm not, once again, now I don't believe in being my child's friend at all. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, this is why I hate people saying shit like, you know, 40's the new 30, you know, 50's the new 40, you know, 30's the new 20. Because this is the type of shit that doesn't allow us to grow. Everybody these days is still trying to keep their youth instead of stepping into their manhood or their womanhood or into those leadership roles. That's kind of the culture now. And that's why these parents want to be their kids' friends, because these parents still want to be young. They still want to go out. We see all of this bullshit on TV, you know what I'm saying, where the moms and the dads are just like the kids. Once again, I'm not absolving anyone, but this is what is being promoted to us. And it's being promoted to us for a reason, because they want our minds poisoned so that we cannot help our communities. They want us to be young. They want us to think that 50 and 40 is the new 30. So we'll still be out in the clubs trying to party like these kids and hang out. Like all of this shit that we see, in that it's not just the kids. Adults are being controlled mentally by a lot of this media too.
I agree. What did G say? If the black community heals, the government will have nobody to feed on. Oof.
I'm gonna tell you, hey, and I'm not gonna just jump in, bro. That was one of the realest statements I ever heard. Bro, I'm gonna tell you like this: when we get shit together, if black people actually work together and we start really molding, that's when we gonna have the most problems. Because, bro, that's what people don't want. You know what I'm saying? It is being set up like that.
And the sad part is gonna come from one of us. It's gonna come from one of us.
Bro, the government feeds off of us. That lady said that. The government feeds off of us. That's what they want us to think, that we are the people that actually are getting Section 8 and, you know, that we're the people that are taken from the government. The government feeds off of us. All these brothers in the pen, all of the court fees, all of the lawyer fees, all of this stuff that we do in the system, to me, that's what keeps this shit afloat. And that's what they don't want to tell you. And that's why they have such a strong invested interest in making sure that we do not grow. That's why it is bigger than us just trying to even go at each other, because this is a plan set up and is what keeps this country afloat. The reason why America even got to the height it was because of slave labor. That is why. Because they had a bunch of people working for free that were building this country for free. And that's what is going on now with the prison, the straight to school to prison pipeline. It's just the same thing, slavery in a different way. But that's what I would tell y'all. We can't come at each other. We are what feeds this and fuels this government and a lot of these people living.
You keep saying we can't come at each other, and if y'all couldn't tell already, when we jump on, my man James, he's always pro. He's gonna be pro. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna attack. Because you say just looking at if they're consistently shooting and killing us, how are we gonna come together if they don't even understand? Like, why? We trying to have this dialogue, but we can't bring them to the table. How can we have a dialogue so we can come together?
Bring who to the table? Like the gang members?
Yeah. I mean, just even those who's out there with those community culture destroying habits, and a lot of these behaviors at this point has become a habit. You know what I mean? Because they've been doing it for so long and without it thinking that it's a problem. So in order for us to come together, in order for us to be a problem for the government, for them to sneak a mold within the movement that we want to do to crumble us down, we got to come together first. But in order for us to come together, how do we get people at the table who number one, don't want to be at the table, number two, don't care about being at the table, and number three is like, shit, it ain't my table.
Man, to be honest with you, I think that, bro, there's more of us that really want to take part in positivity and growth. I just think that, once again, one of the hardest things is trauma. You know what I mean? And this is the biggest thing about gangbanging. And, bro, I've never gangbanged, but I try to understand and I ask for discernment. And one thing that I understand is that once people start dying and being killed in war, man, that's the hardest thing to stop. It's the hardest thing to put up a white flag when you done lost cousins. When you're lost, and now I'm not saying that you ain't ignorant for just being in that war, but that war was started to keep us. And that's where a lot of it is right now. You know what I mean? In a situation where brothers don't want to change because we've already lost so much. It's like, shit, only thing we know is to go at the Bloods, go at the Crips. You know what I'm saying? Fight each other. You know what I mean? It's healing that trauma. The first thing that we got to do as Black people with relationships, with gang members, with any of that shit is healing trauma, man. You know what I'm saying? For real.
And that's big, because again, that's not something that you can just happen overnight. That's just going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? And it's something that's going to take the willingness of all parties. And in terms of that willingness coming from that audience, the gangbanging audience, how do you really think it's gonna, they would take part in that healing?
I think the first thing that people have to do is they have to see some sort of benefit. You know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing. When you've been a gangster your whole life and then somebody's telling you to do something else, but you don't see any type of way where you can really benefit your life or actually rise yourself, because you're looking at this path that you have to take and how far you've come and now how far you got to go back to get back. I think that's one of the hardest things. I think that in order to get some of our people back, we really have to continue. First, we start with the babies. We make sure that the babies' minds don't get caught up with this nonsense before, they become gangsters, before they become gang members. That's the first place we start. The second place we start, for me, you know what I'm saying, is you can't change men. They have to want to change themselves. You know what I'm saying? And, once again, the only thing we can do is bring the information.
So check it out. I mean, you hit it on the head too. You know what I mean? My approach was we hit the babies first, but if we don't, you know, my thing is if we hit the babies first and the babies is looking up to their older cousins, they dads, they uncles, they aunts and stuff who's still out there gang banging and stuff like that and can't wait for them to get out of prison or whatnot, then that'll defeat everything that we've done in terms of the work that we've done for the baby. All right. And then you just hit it on the head with, you know, about the parents. You know what I mean? Like how oh, check it out. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna break right here. We're gonna break right here. You know, just because of the fact this next, you know, we can keep going on for about a whole nother 3, 4
For sure.
days just on this conversation right here. So we're gonna end this conversation, but we're gonna come back to it too, just because of the fact I do want to make sure I do want to see if we can get some of the gangsters in here, you know what I mean? Some of the lokes in here, some of the you know, to defend. Or you don't even gotta defend, you know, nigga, I ain't no bum. You know what I mean? First of all, type of thing. If you wanna come on up here and share your stance or let the people know what gang banging, whatever the fuck, by all means, I'm gonna try to get y'all to tap in. But you know, that's our session for the day, man. As usual, my man James, he came through and spilled some loads on us, you know what I'm saying? And you know, I sure do appreciate you too, my bro.
Hey man, I appreciate you, man. I learned from you these conversations. I really do. Hey man, I'm gonna try to get one of my people to tap into. We'll try to get a couple gangsters on here because I want to hear from them too.
That's a bet. That's a bet. Already. All right, y'all. All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, bro.
Peace.